Before we jump into this podcast, let's just have a first word from our sponsors, NordVPN, the fastest VPN in the world and an absolute essential travelling companion. You can use NordVPN on 10 devices with just one account, easily switching your virtual location to access apps and websites in other countries. But if you're out of the country, make sure that you've got NordVPN to be able to use your subscriptions and watch the live sport that you might miss. If you're at home, use it to see if you can save money with products that might be cheaper in another region. Go to nordvpn.com/Manchester to get 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. The link is also in the podcast description.
Hello and welcome to the Manchester is Red podcast. My name is Steven Railston. We're recording this episode during the international break, so admittedly not a huge amount to talk about, but we'll see how me and David McDonnell get on today because we're going to look at United's player ratings for the season so far. But before we get into it, David, how are you? How's the international break treating you?
Yeah, okay. As you say, Steve, it's quiet. I think every club fan, certainly every United fan, but every club fan yearns for the return of the Premier League because it is a long break. And of course, United went into it on the back of that morale-boosting win over Sunderland. And one of the questions I asked Ruben afterwards was, are you... how frustrating is it for you that you haven't got a game to build on the momentum from this result? And he said that this team has no momentum. So, but I mean, I think he will have wanted to, have had a game straight away. Of course, there are no midweek games, but that's relevant on an international break. But obviously, Liverpool coming up on Sunday, huge fixture. Arguably the biggest fixture in English football calendar. So the international break, it's quiet, players are away, and as a manager, I guess the worry is, are they going to come back injured? Are they going to pick up anything while they're away? We've seen it, I think, with Haaland for Manchester City on international duty with Norway, so Ruben Amorim will be keeping his fingers crossed that none of his players suffer any kind of injury.
Did you have a good weekend yourself?
I did, yes. I was due to go to Bristol for my sister-in-law's party, but work kept me from going there, unfortunately. But all good. Daughter's team won.
Oh, right, yeah. Did she score?
6-3. No, she didn't. No, she had a couple of assists, though.
If she doesn't score, you could just see, you're not getting a lift home.
You're
staying on the pitch, walk home.
I have to say, she was annoyed with me because on the last podcast, you asked me what position she played. Okay. And I said winger. And she said, I'm a striker. So, Erin, I apologise to you for that.
You have to get that out there and get the apology out there, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I was in a great mood until last night. I had a really good weekend. Went and did my weekly shop at Sainsbury's. Got my stuff in.
Sainsbury's,
sometimes Aldi. Depends.
You're getting paid too much. At Sainsbury's.
I'm not getting paid enough. It depends how I'm feeling, what mood I'm in. I was making a nice chicken garlic linguine. I thought I was pushing the boat. I'm actually quite a good chef, I'd like to say. Very humble as well.
Yes, indeed. Humble brag.
I had a disaster.
What with the chicken linguine?
The cream in my bag for life. It's split in the car on the way back. Didn't realise until I got back up into the flat. It's all over the floor. It's drenched my shampoo. It's on my lettuce. I just thought, this is not my night. And then halfway through making it, my wok, I've broken the handle on the wok when I've gone to clean it.
So what happened to the linguine?
It was the cream was disaster. I mean, I salvaged it somehow.
Yeah.
I plated it up at 9 p.m, but it comes in, bad luck comes in freeze. I've had two episodes there, so have you got some bad news for us, David? Or?
Well, I was going to say that reminds me of the time, and we're getting into that season now, where my wife bought some pumpkins for Halloween for the kids to carve too early, and then she went and put them in the boot and lost her car keys. You know what's coming, don't you? And then we couldn't find the car keys, and once we found the car keys or got some replacements, I can't remember what happened. By the time we got into the car, the pumpkins were absolutely reeking, rotten, stenched. So kind of similar, although...
Was it that took to find the car keys, or how long was it?
Well, no, I can't remember actually. I think it was about a week or so.
But you got there eventually.
Oh yeah, it was quite some time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but no disasters like that, thankfully, on my weekend off.
Right, football, and as I said in the first part, we're going to do player ratings. So you put the article out just after Sunderland, I believe. We do need something to write about during the international break, and you've whizzed through all the players. You've given them a rating, a brief little summary of your kind of opinion on their performances so far. So what we'll do is I'll read out the players. I'll read out the number that you gave.
Oh,
subject to change. You are allowed to change.
Yeah, I have a feeling I will change a couple of them.
There has been
probably
a week and
more.
a half. And as we've said, you're allowed to change your opinion.
I think I was a bit generous with one or two of them, if I'm honest.
So we'll start with Altay Bayindir. You've given him a 6.
I think that was a bit generous.
Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, what did I say? I can't remember now. He didn't do a lot wrong. Well, obviously he had the error against Arsenal.
So there was the mistake against Arsenal, mistake against Burnley
for both goals, yeah.
I think he was fortunate against Fulham myself. You couldn't say he was at fault for the goal, but I mean, he was a heart attack at corners.
Yeah.
I think he was fortunate not to concede from another set piece.
And at Brentford, he made I don't think he had much chance with the first 2 goals. He made a couple of great saves after that, I think. We were both there. And then for the 3rd goal, I think he'd given up then. I mean, he really should have saved that. It was hardly in the top corner. It was in the middle of the goal. But a 6, maybe that's about right, a 6. I mean, I don't think he's done an awful lot wrong, but then when you look at the impact that Senny Lommans has had when he came in, albeit only for 1 game, the confidence, we talked about this already on previous podcasts, the confidence that he transmitted throughout the whole team and the defence in particular, you can see why it was necessary to bring him in when Ruben Amorim did, and why he, barring any kind of major blunders, is going to keep the shirt going forward. So Bayern Deer 6, maybe 5.5. If we had the opportunity to give half marks, I'd probably given him 5.5.
We're going to get into dangerous territory because we're giving 5.2s and 5.6s and stuff like that.
Ice skating, isn't it?
Yeah. You couldn't blame the City performance on him because United were collectively really disappointing and bad.
Yeah.
But I thought he could have done a lot better in that game personally. I just think how unconvincing he's been, and you've talked about the impact that Lommans has made in transmitting confidence. The opposite has been the case with Bayende. I think he's kind of transmitted nerves throughout the team at times. And I think when he took that heavy touch, didn't he, in the first half, and he was lucky to get away with it in the derby, Haaland nearly pounced on it and scored. And it just sent the wrong message, I thought, from the first whistle in that game. I think a 5 or a 6. So are you saying, do you say 5.5? 5.5. 5.5. I'll probably agree with you. I've been quite critical of him.
Yeah, without him, that Brentford scoreline would have been a lot more humiliating.
He was good against Brentford. He was very good.
He made a couple of great saves from corners. I think there's one particular good save from a header, which was flicked on, which he made. So, it was difficult in the sense of, as I say, I don't think he did a great deal wrong in that game, but I just think Lommans brings more confidence to the team, and you can just see he's got that presence that Bayern Deer lacks.
So a lovely little segue to Senna Lommans.
Now this is one I've probably...
You've gone for an 8, which
after one game,
on the back of one appearance might feel a bit generous.
Maybe I was caught up in the hysteria like United fans of actually,
do you know what? No,
actually having a goalkeeper that can catch the ball.
I'll give him an 8. I'll go for an 8. If you want to downgrade.
I think it's more the impact, not necessarily the performance, because I don't think he was troubled that much against Sunderland. They were pretty poor. I think they made one save, didn't he, towards the end, in the 94th, 5th minute. But it was the way he just settled in straight away. There were no nerves. He looked like he was confident, calm, assured, came for the ball, as we say, got that huge cheer when he collected the cross. So I just felt an 8 just for the impact he had, rather than the performance. Obviously, you can't, maybe it's a little bit generous on the back of one game, but if he can maintain that consistency of performance over the next few weeks and months, then I think he'll be fully deserving of high marks like that.
So are you sticking?
Yeah, I'm sticking with that, just because of the impact. 7.5.
You're a bit wishy-washy this morning, aren't you? You said to me that you might have downgraded that one.
Well, 7.5.
Right, okay.
So maybe 7.5.
I'll go for an 8. I think a really, really good debut. I think you want to get off on the right foot, of course. And there was the save at the end of the first half of Xhaka, he should have saved it. Then, as you said, the claim. And then at the end, the shot was straight up. He should have saved it. But nonetheless, it was an important block at that point of the match.
And his distribution...
It was really good.
If I remember rightly, with both feet, I think, was very good. And of course, we saw United go a different style, more route one, long balls, winning the second ball. So it was a different approach. And obviously, Nana was bought primarily ostensibly for his distribution, for his ability to play out from the back. That didn't work out. Now, I don't know a huge amount about Lommans. I don't think many of us do in terms of his ability to play short passes, but we didn't see a great deal of that in the Sunderland game. So maybe as time goes on, we'll see a bit more of that. But he certainly, in terms of his long-range passing, was excellent.
You'd think if you're capable of picking out Benjamin Sesko from 50 yards and finding your striker up the pitch with brilliant passes, you think he'd be capable of pinging it short and playing those kind of short passes out to his defenders. I spoke to someone who coached him at Bruges this week for a piece at the weekend, and he actually mentioned how good he is with both feet. So you obviously realised that against Sunderland as well before the international break. So an 8 and a 7.5. We'll move on from Lommans, who made a very good first appearance. Hopefully he builds on that against Liverpool this weekend. Move on to the defenders. Actually, what are you giving Tom Heaton?
Just for his presence. Maybe a 7.
He's great around Carrot and great around the place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's a good guy, Tom. So it's a 7.
Yeah, we can't rate Tom Heaton. That is a joke. So moving on to the defenders.
7 off the field.
Luke Shaw, a mixed season. It's fair to say he was disappointing in the derby. Obviously, there was a lot of disappointing performances, but Shaw individually he stood out. He had a bad game. He's also had a few decent performances. He's played on the left side of the back three. Obviously hasn't been used the left wing back with Amram in charge. You've given him a 6. Would you stand by that?
Yeah, I would, I think. He had a terrible game against City. Got called out by Roy Keane afterwards. I mean, who doesn't get called out by Roy Keane when they've had a bad game? But he was particularly brutal with Luke Shaw. I think the quote was, he's been stealing a living at United, which I thought was a bit gratuitous, because Shaw, let's be honest, has had no luck with injuries. No player sets out to get injured. And I think it's been pretty cruel towards Luke Shaw, who on his day is a world-class defender. Let's not forget. Now, of course, he's not been available. Managers haven't had him as often as they would like. But whenever he has been fit, managers have picked him. All the Manchester United managers he's played under, right from Louis van Gaal, have picked him when he's been fit. But he didn't have the best of games against Manchester City. But as you say, Steve, none of the United players did. But he has sort of atoned for it somewhat with a really good performance against Chelsea. And he came out and spoke to us afterwards. And I put the Roy Keane comments to him at the end of the interview we had with him. We only had 5-10 minutes in the mix zone. And most players you'd expect to sort of push back on it. But he said, no, he's absolutely right. He said, I don't need Roy Keane to tell me when I've had a bad game. But he was right. I wasn't at it. I let myself down. I wasn't at the level I need to be at, and this was more like it, the Chelsea game. So, and I remember that Chelsea game with United sort of hanging on at 2-1, or trying to protect that lead and get over the line. He made a great recovery tackle. So it's been a mixed start, as you say, for Luke Shaw. A 6 feels about right. He's not really been consistent, but there have been flashes of his ability. So I think a 6 is fair enough.
5-10 minutes in the mix zone. 10 minutes. Is there a mix zone that I've not been to at Old Trafford?
Yeah,
You're lucky to get 10 minutes.
It might have been about 7 minutes, to be honest. 7
fair
and a half.
enough if you spoke for 7.5. Yeah, that's fair enough. I think 6 is very fair. I think 5 would be too harsh, and I think a 7 is obviously too much.
Generous. Yeah,
he showed a lot of desire against Chelsea to get to that ball when it was played in the box. I think was it Maguire who was officially accredited with the assist.
Of course,
but Shaw
leapt for the ball, didn't he?
It definitely came off Shaw.
Yeah,
to
sorry,
get
I forgot about
across
that as well.
For Casemiro's goal. And now obviously that performance was after the derby. So he showed good character there to bounce back from that game. He took a bit of flack from Keane. He spoke in the mix zone, obviously, after Chelsea. So I think 6 is definitely fair. Matthias de Ligt, you've given him an 8, and I think I'd have to absolutely agree with that as well. For me, he's probably been, if not the standout performer, one of the joint performers, the best performers of this season. I've been very impressed with de Ligt. I thought he had a decent first season. There was, again, probably a bit of a mixed bag. There was some good moments. There was some games where he could have performed better. Yeah. And there's some question marks, obviously, since his transfer from Bayern Munich. Would they let a player of quality go, etc.? Same with Juventus. But I think this season he's been really good. He was unfortunate to be left out the Netherlands squad just in the national break. Obviously, they have got a lot of quality in central defence. And I think something I'll add to that as well is leadership as well in that back three. I appreciate he came out after the derby and he spoke and he took responsibility. He spoke to a Dutch journalist and he stopped after the Brentford game as well. And look, we're not going to get the violin out. It's easy to ignore us guys in the mix zone as you're leaving stadiums, and it's very understandable. Sometimes you've had a bad result, you want to get on the bus and just go home. But it takes character to speak, and de Ligt has fronted up, and he wasn't named in the leadership group in the summer. But he is clearly, he's clearly a leader in that dressing room.
Yeah, and with his experience, what age is he now? 26?
I think he's 26.
Yeah, so I mean, he's not old in player terms by any stretch, but he's got a huge amount of experience in the clubs he's been at. You mentioned Bayern Munich, Juventus, Ajax, Manchester United now. I was surprised when Ruben Amorim mentioned about the leadership group in America in the summer on the tour that de Ligt wasn't involved in that, because you think he'd be a shoo-in for that. I think I'm right as well in saying that he's played every minute of every Premier League game this season, so all 7 games, which shows his enduring value and importance to Amorim and to Manchester United. And there's a lot of talk and debate about Bruno Fernandes going on and about is he suited to the captaincy and that kind of thing. And I think I can't see it happening, and certainly not until Bruno leaves. But I think De Ligt would be the natural successor as Manchester United captain when Bruno Fernandes leaves. If De Ligt is still there, I think he'd be absolutely perfect for the role, because he commands respect, he has the experience, he's just got all the qualities you would expect in a leader, and he makes himself available all the time. You know, I don't know his injury history this season, but he seems to have been injury free. But I mean, to play every minute of every game, in particular when Amorim, as we've touched on here in the past, you know, and all the fans will know, loves to change his centre back, so make at least one change in games. De Ligt's not been hooked, so I think that shows you how important he is. So I think he's definitely future captain material for United.
It's impressive that he's been able to sustain those performances, because I think that's the thing about last season. The criticism was having that consistency, and look, again, it was a poor season collectively, so perhaps it is hard to maintain that individual consistency when everyone around you is struggling, you're in a struggling team. But he has been very good. I just had to remind myself of the leadership group there. Obviously, Tommy Heaton, Harry Maguire, Diego Dalot Martinez, Mazraoui, and of course Bruno Fernandes as well. So United do actually have leaders in that dressing room.
Oh yeah, but he's a strange omission, isn't he?
He is.
He falls into
that
category. Yeah. So I think it's an odd omission. I don't know how. I actually can't remember if we asked. I'm sure we did ask Ruben how that leadership group was formed, whether it was the players or whether he did it. I think it was the players. But that would even make it even more of a startling omission to me, that someone of De Ligt's stature and experience is not in there. But, you know, what do we know?
You can't have everyone in the leadership group, can you, I suppose?
Yeah, exactly.
6 men.
That's a fair point. That.
Yeah. Moving on to Lenny Yoro. It was his first season last year. Dealt with a few injuries, of course. Showed his quality though, and showed why Real Madrid would have been interested in him before his move from Lille. You've given him a 7 on the player ratings. Would you stand by that?
Yeah, I think I'd stand by that. I remember last season, I think I was in Los Angeles when he got injured in that first game, making his debut. And he had 3 months out, I think, so he had to wait to make his debut. But he had a decent season last season. I think this season, he's been excellent. He should be the first choice on the right hand side of that back three, and of course it was telling that he was left out at City and
played at City.
Sorry,
left out against Chelsea and Brentford. Yeah, came back in the team against Sunderland,
which was on the face of it maybe understandable because everyone had a poor game, but no one, I think he's a shoo-in for a starting place because the composure he's got, the way his ability to bring the ball out from the back is. I wouldn't say his pace, but I mean, he doesn't really get left behind. And he's just a good reader of the game. He's a very intelligent young footballer. And I think he's certainly worthy of a 7. And I think he will be a mainstay in that team for quite some time to come. I can understand to a certain extent why Ruben Amorim wants to change, but I don't think it helps with your back three in terms of any kind of consistency and developing an understanding. So I think hopefully Lenny Yoro will be a permanent fixture like De Ligt, like Luke Shaw. I think those would be the first choice back three, because we know Ruben's going to persist with this 3-4-2-1 system. So I would say that those three are the first choice in the centre back positions.
I understood his being dropped from the team against Chelsea after the derby. I think the first Haaland goal, Doku kind of shrugged Yoro off. He uses his body very intelligently, Doku, for being a smaller player. Shrugged Yoro off, obviously played Haaland through. Then he had the foot race with Luke Shaw, which he was never going to win. So I kind of understood it against Chelsea, but then to keep him on the bench against Brentford was a bit confusing. And there was a huge cheer when he came on the pitch with 25 minutes to go.
He took Maguire and Shaw off, didn't he? Yeah.
And obviously came back in the team against Sunderland, which we all expected, and it would have been concerning if he hadn't have been brought back into the side. It's interesting because last season he actually had the left side of the back three locked down, if you remember, for a period from around February, March time, I believe it was. There was a period where he played on the left side and he looked very good. And obviously there was injuries in the side, so he had to play there. But I actually thought maybe this is his best position.
On the right?
On the left.
On the left, sorry.
On the left. Right. I thought maybe this is his best position. This season he's exclusively played on the right. Yeah. Who did you say, sorry? You said Yoro, De Ligt, and who was
Shaw.
So,
but when fitness permitting,
I would probably have Harry Maguire there. We're about to. Did we miss out? Did I miss out Harry Maguire there?
No, I think we
did. Yeah.
Did you? I can't remember. Well,
we'll come on to him in a second. Sorry.
Anyway.
Yeah. It's right in front of us, so I shouldn't get that wrong.
Yeah.
But
no excuse.
I think Harry Maguire would be my best back three. I think Maguire, De Ligt, in Euro would be mine. But you'd have Shoreham, would you?
I'd have Shaw just as a natural left footer on that left-hand side.
I just think it's quite overrated. Amram has discussed and Ten Hag did as well, the benefits. So clearly there's something in it, having a left-sided player, a left-footed player on the left side. So clearly they do want that. But I think Euro is capable of playing there. Yeah,
I think he is. It was interesting, Dorgu as well. Didn't he arrive as ostensibly a right wing back, a right wing back? And is now playing on the left, isn't he? And now Amram kind of bristled when he played him in the opposite position. He said, well, he can play both positions, but all players have to be adaptable. And I think you've seen that with Yoro and you've seen that with Dorgu. They can play on both sides, and Dalot as well. So you have to have that adaptability, particularly in this system, which requires that kind of element to your game.
So we definitely didn't do Harry Maguire.
We haven't done Harry Maguire.
Since the accident, David, I'm not the same. Since banging my head that time.
We'll come on to him now.
The cream splitting everywhere. I'm having a nightmare.
You're getting flashbacks.
Yeah, it's not been a good few weeks. Right, Harry Maguire, probably again a mixed season for himself. He's not played as much as he would have liked. Struggled against Brentford. He obviously kind of jumped up, tried to play the offside trap. Was it partly the system? Was it a mistake from Maguire? I think a 6 is probably fair.
Yeah, that was a bad one. That, I mean, he got caught out badly there, trying to play the offside trap. It didn't work out, and they got him behind and scored. I thought at Chelsea again, a bit like Shaw as well. After the City defeat at Chelsea, he really atoned, and we've talked about this before. But that amazing sliding tackle he did near the dugout, which got a huge cheer. I can't remember who was on. Was it on?
It's João Pedro.
João
Pedro, that tapped his chest to say, "I've got your number."
Yeah, and the crowd really got behind him then, and really, there was a huge noise for that challenge. So, yeah, he has, and of course, I think did he get the assist for the goal against Chelsea? We were just talking about that, weren't we?
But it was definitely Shaw that actually got the assist. I think Maguire was credited, but it was Shaw's.
But Maguire, it's difficult because, as I say, I would go with Luke Shaw as a left-sided centre back. But I can see the argument for Maguire, because on his day, what you'll get from Harry Maguire is 100% commitment. He lets attackers know he's there, a bit like João Pedro. He doesn't give any quarter. His lack of pace, is an issue. He can, and he's got the odd, blunder, in his locker, as we saw at Brentford. There's a kind of not brain freeze, but he does things sometimes that just are inexplicable. So I would go with Shaw as my left-sided, but I think Harry Maguire, again, has had an up and down season so far. There's talk about a new deal. I think that's obvious because United will want to protect his market value. He's out of contract, isn't he, in the summer? So that's a bit of a no-brainer, really, him signing a new deal, if only to protect his value, should they decide to sell him in the summer.
He was obviously given his 1-year extension, so that was triggered just 6 months ago, in January, winter time, for this season. And he spoke to us after the Derby victory in last December when obviously Ahmad scored at the end of the game to turn it around and Fernandes from the spot, and he spoke about his contract situation back then it was extended. But yes, you'd think they would give him the condition would be on reduced terms because he probably can't be earning what he is now.
Yeah. Was he 32 now?
It might be 33. Good job. We've got a laptop in front of us and we can check it, but it's not very professional, is it, David? He is 32.
Oh, I was bang on.
You're 32 until you're 33.
Yeah, indeed. Where was that from? I remember that. What was that one?
It was it's the famous Twitter exchange, isn't it?
Yeah, who was it? What was the player involved?
I can't remember which player it was, but
is it Aubameyang or someone? Possibly.
I don't think it might have been Aubameyang, actually.
I've got this vague recollection in the recesses of my mind.
Memories aren't doing us justice today. Diogo Dalot, you've given him a 6. I'm probably going to be harsh and give him a 5 myself. I think
that's fair enough.
He's had quite a difficult start to the season. There's probably a bit of recency bias in there because of the Sunderland performance. He contributed massively with those long throw-ins, which I probably didn't realise he had in his locker, and he created opportunities from the side, but his touches were pretty poor. He had a disappointing game.
He came back in the side against Brentford, didn't he? I think.
Yeah, I don't think he's been at his best this season.
No. Maybe a 6 was a bit generous. He got an assist, didn't he, for Mbeumo against Burnley? So he has kind of showcased his attacking, prowess. And
that was from the left as well.
From the left, yeah. Again, talking about that versatility and adaptability and being able to play both sides. Yeah, Dalot is a strange one because I like Dalot. Again, you talk about players who front up in mixed zones, and I know this is a player ratings on the pitch, but he he's never afraid to talk after a difficult performance.
Are we giving player ratings for mix on appearances?
Well, they'll all get 0. No, I'm joking. But you can't fault his enthusiasm, his desire, his commitment. You know, he's always the one high-fiving after a clearance and chest bumping and all that kind of stuff and fist bumping. But I just feel the quality isn't there. And I think, you know, try as hard as he likes and as hard as his commitment is and as much as he wants to give his all, I just don't think the quality is there. You see it in flashes, you see it sporadically, but I don't think you see it over a consistent basis. And I think a lot of United fans would agree with that. And I think that'll be one of the areas where United will look to upgrade in the summer window, you know, in terms of the wing backs. Because I think, okay, they bought Patrick Dorgu, who's also had a slow start. We'll probably come on to him in a minute. But I think, Amorim, you need specialists in those wing-back positions if you're going to persist with this system. And if Amorim does survive, and we assume he is, on the back of Jim Ratcliffe's comments about him needing time to prove he's a good coach, you know, the length of his contract, which is 3 years. If Amorim is going to stay for the long haul, then I think you're going to see new wing-backs arrive next summer, in the summer transfer window.
I think that's always been my gripe with Dalot, because is he the right back that's going to take you to the top of the Premier League for a title challenge? No. But the reality is United aren't there yet. He's an exceptional squad player. He's a very, very good squad player. Works incredibly hard in training. He's so professional, dedicated to his craft, good in the dressing room, a good influence around the players, has great character. And you're right, he can have some really good games. When he's at his best, he can be really effective on the right. And I think in his defence, actually, because I've kind of been a bit of a harsh critic probably over the last couple of years, making that point about Dalot, I don't think he's helped when he has moved to the left. And versatility is obviously an asset, and he can play there. Of course, he can play on the left. But I think his best football and his best performances have come down the right. And I think when you tinker in with a player's positioning quite regularly, it doesn't help them find the rhythm. And it makes it difficult for them to really build momentum and give the best account of themselves each week. So fair play to Dalot, because wherever he's needed to play, he plays, and he does his best. I think, so you agreeing with a 5, sorry, did you say? Or are you going for a 6? 5 might be a little bit harsh, but to make it interesting, I'll give it a 5.
I think a 6 because of the assist as well against Burnley.
Yeah. And again, that was from the left. So
from the left side, which is not his natural side. 5.5 if we're permitted half marks again.
Moving on to Patrick Dorgu, 20 years old, had his first 6 months at the club after arriving from Lecce last season. I spoke to him alongside Jamie and Pete Hall before the Fulham game at Carrington, when a few of us spoke to Harry Maguire down by a school, I think it was in Stretford. A very good talker, actually, and I think he'd had a shot against Arsenal, if you remember. He was bombing down the left and he took a shot from around 30 yards. And I said to him, forgive us if I'm wrong here, Patrick, but it seems like last season you probably wouldn't have taken that shot. It seems like you've got more confidence now. And he said, no, you're right, I actually agree. I've settled into my environment more, which is natural. I think when we're looking at Dorgu, we're forgetting how young he is. He's come from a really small club in Italy to the biggest club in England. New language, new surroundings. It was always going to be difficult. There is clear potential there, isn't it? Because he's very athletic. Yeah. He's got all the right tools and parts to become a really good footballer. It just might take a little bit of time.
What did I give him?
You've given him a 5. I would agree with that, but again, it kind of feels maybe it's a bit harsh.
What did I say about him? I can't remember. This was.
Do you want me to read you?
This is too long ago for me. It's only about
Started
a week ago.
5 of United 7 league games, but still has to convince as a left wing back. His final ball needs improving.
The final ball was what I was going to mention.
Yeah,
I think I read somewhere, maybe I got this wrong, but against City he had more touches in the opposition box than any other player, but his final ball was terrible.
There was huge opportunities against City down that side. He was finding himself in such brilliant positions.
Yeah, exactly.
It's frustrating sometimes because he hits the same cross into the box. It's kind of low and a bit aimless. He doesn't really pick someone out. He just kind of plays it in and it scuttles around a bit. Yeah,
and I think that's something I wrote there, maybe I'm right, that's something that Amorim and his coaching staff have to work on. They have to, if they're going to play the system where the wing-backs are bombing forward, wing-backs are bombing forward and they are becoming attackers in a sense. They've got to have a decent final ball, an effective final ball, and he hasn't got that in his locker at the moment. So that's something that has to improve in that position. If you have Ahmed, say, on the right wing back, I know he's had a slow start, and we'll come on to him. But ordinarily, Ahmed's got a decent cross on him. We'll go delivery in, or he'll go past a player and cut the ball back. Dorgu Dorgu, I just, defensively, I think he's okay. But going forward, I don't see anything there really. So I think that's probably why I give him a 5. Yeah, 5. I'll stick with that.
I think maybe, is it a composure thing when he does get to the final third? Because
possibly, but then again, that's something they have to work on.
Yeah, and it should come with time. Like I say, I think when you analyse Dorgu, pardon me, we all have to realise how young he is, and £25 million, wasn't it, from Lecce, and again, in a few years' time, he should have all the qualities to become a top player, but it's probably, again, going to take a few seasons, isn't it?
I would say so,
Dorgu, yeah. Moving on then to Nossia Mazraoui, who surpassed 50 appearances for United in his first season, was always available, played multiple positions. I think it was 6 different positions. Utility man, he was fantastic, really, in his
modern day
debut.
Phil Neville.
Yeah. Don't know, I'm not sure he wants that comparison.
Sorry, Phil.
But he had an injury in pre-season, which is obviously unlike him, and he's been restricted to 2 Premier League starts. He's had a hair transplant, so maybe he's just been to Turkey and had the time off. I've noticed that.
Didn't notice that. How's it looking?
It's looking better, as you'd expect. Yeah, making a trip. Maybe get his teeth done as well. I'm not sure.
So has he got a full head of hair now?
Not yet. It's not how it works, David. He doesn't just get an afro when he comes back from Turkey. But I think in a few,
I think I need to investigate these things with my ball patch.
I think you'll find that. But I think in a few months' time, we'll maybe see a bit more of a hairstyle from Mazraoui. Again, we spoke about Lobben's clothes, didn't we?
I'd have given him more if I'd known about the hair transplant.
Now talking about Mazraoui's hair transplant. You give him a 6, I would agree with that. We've not seen him enough to really judge him either way.
It's a tricky one. As I say, I think, is it 2 Premier League starts and then the injuries, and he's not back until after the international break. So it's difficult to give an accurate gauge as to how he's played. So 6, I think, is fair enough. But 7 for the hair transplant.
Having said that, you've given Heaven a 5, and we've hardly seen Aidan Heaven.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, he made 1 sub appearance.
3 minutes in the Premier League.
Yeah, 87th minute against. Who was it against?
Tempted to say it was Burnley.
Possibly, I can't remember now. But I mean, again, he's a young player that obviously had the injury.
Played against Grimsby as well.
Yeah, Grimsby in the League Cup defeat. He got injured last season, didn't he, away at Leicester, I think, and that set him back. So, listen, it's a struggle because there aren't enough games in the calendar now with United not being in Europe, out of the EFL Cup. You've got to wait till January for the FA Cup. You've got 1 game a week. Players like Aidan Heaven aren't really going to get a look in. We come on to the inevitable Kobbie Mainoo mention in a minute. He's in the same boat. Amram is working with a much smaller squad and much smaller personnel in terms of who he picks, because he's only got 1 competition to go for now until the FA Cup in January. So these guys aren't going to get a look in, and that's frustrating for them. So you can't really give them an accurate mark because they've not had time to feature.
Spent far too long on 2 players who've hardly played there. Moving on to Casemiro. You've given him a 6. I'd probably agree with that. The red card during the Chelsea game was disappointing because United were cruising and it was absolutely unnecessary. He did score, but it's just a moment of silliness, really. It was a harsh second yellow card. It probably wasn't a second yellow card, I think. But nonetheless, he shouldn't have given the referee a decision. We said that after the podcast. But there's been some decent moments, I think, as well.
Yeah.
We're only 7 games into the Premier League season, of course, but I think 6 is a fair reflection.
Yeah, I mean, he's made that position alongside Bruno Fernandes his own. Amram has said that Mainoo is competing with Fernandes, so Casemiro is safe. Ugarte's not pulled up any trees this season or last, so there doesn't seem to be any real competition.
It probably
for Casemiro, which, and we touched upon this again in previous podcasts, where we were both surprised that United didn't go for a midfielder in the summer, and that may, if they had prioritised that and got maybe an Adam Wharton or Carlos Baleba, you wouldn't have seen Casemiro feature so much. But because they prioritised, erroneously, I think, and inexplicably, 2 number 10s in Cunha and Mbeumo, and they had to get a striker, of course, in Sesko. There wasn't the money to fund another midfielder, to bring in a midfielder. So I think that's why you've seen Casemiro obviously feature a lot more than he would have done. But he has played well. He's used all his experience. He's been solid. He looks a lot fitter, a lot sharper than last season when he kind of regressed, I thought. So I think a 6 is fair enough. The red card against Chelsea was needless, stupid, and it made that victory a lot harder than it need have been. And he can't afford to indulge in any of that at Anfield on Sunday, because Michael Oliver there in charge, he won't need any excuse to get out the yellow card.
Probably says more about Ugarte, doesn't it? I think than Casemiro, that Ugarte's just been so poor, which is why he hasn't played that much. We'll come into Ugarte now then, because very similar players of the Similks. You've given him a 4. I think that's actually fair. I've been really disappointed with Ugarte this season, especially when Amram arrived. You looked at it and you thought he would be the biggest winner potentially from Amram's appointment, having worked with him at Sporting Lisbon. Both had a really good relationship. He played some of his best football, probably the best football of his career at Sporting under Amram. But we've just not seen it, unfortunately, yet at United. There's some good performances last year, and there was some, again, a mixed bag. But the Grimsby game, he had a big part in that, and he had a hand in their first goal. And I don't know whether it's been overly critical, but when you actually break it down and you look how many seconds it took from Ugarte and Ahmad, if you remember, David, they had it coming together on the halfway line.
At Grimsby?
Grimsby, at Blundell Park, and the ball was played right. And in the time that it took him to stand to his feet, I think it was around 11 seconds anyways, in between that kind of coming together in the goal. And I watched it back a few times, and I wanted to watch it enough to kind of make this opinion. I think he could have done more. He could have got to his feet a bit quicker and bust along and really got back. And if you remember last season against West Ham, when they won 2-0 at Old Trafford, there was a similar incident when he lost the ball. He kind of just looked up around, kind of jogged back.
No desire to
and
get
West
back
Ham scored and
win the ball back.
You've got to do the basics right. And I don't know whether he's just so exhausted because he's been running around so much and trying to cover every blade of grass. And when he does take a blow and he does get to come to the floor, perhaps he doesn't have that burst of energy to get up and fight.
But you need to have that burst of energy if you're playing in that position. Exactly.
The optics weren't great. He's had a disappointing start to the season. In his defence, I think in the last international break, I think he even conceded that himself. He said, "I've not been at my best. I should be playing better."
I mean, he started the derby, didn't he, ahead of Casemiro?
He had a good game. That was his best performance yet.
But didn't he give the ball away for the third goal? Wasn't it a stray pass from him, I think? I'm pretty sure it was. I can't think of any game where Ugarte
his first half performance was very good against City. And like I said, I've just criticised his performances this season because on a whole, they've not been good enough. But there was 45 minutes there. It was a surprise decision from Amram to start Ugarte that game because he last played against Grimsby. But I think he vindicated the selection in a sense. But even against Chelsea, I think we were all of the opinion we wouldn't have probably started him on the back of that game.
No, I just don't think I can't recall any game where I've gone away thinking, wow, Ugarte really bossed the midfield. Ugarte was, crunching into challenges, going box to box. I know that's not naturally a box to box midfielder, but I mean, I just don't know what he does. When he played at PSG, when Newcastle beat PSG, remember he was playing there.
He was right off the park.
And he was just terrible then. And then United went and bought him. And I've not seen anything really, if I'm honest, since he's been at United that's made me think, wow, that was a really good investment. 50 million, excellent. Well done. Honestly, there's so many better midfielders out there you could have got for that money. I think he's been really poor, and I would be surprised if he's still here at the start of next season. Because I think he just doesn't bring much at all to the table.
It's finding the market to buy him now. That's the thing. After
that's the problem.
Too questionable. Because I mean, PSG, United felt they'd actually got a good deal that summer. Last summer, 2 summers ago now, I suppose.
A bit like Anthony.
Yeah, they thought they got. Well, I'm not sure they thought they got value. They just paid it anyways. But because obviously they win negotiations all summer with PSG and finally landed them towards the end of the window. But he's not looked worth that investment so far, unfortunately.
No.
Bruno Fernandes, you've given him a 6. Could potentially be controversial and move Fernandes down to a 5.
Oh, I thought you were going to go the other way.
Look, fantastic footballer, we all know that. I was actually, as I said on the last podcast, I was very much in favour of keeping him in the summer when Saudi came calling. With the benefit of hindsight, perhaps now we look back at it and say maybe they should have made a change to reinvest those funds into another position, into midfield, to get a player more suitable for that role. I think he's really, again, it's not really his fault, but he's really struggled with the position that he's been asked to be played, in my opinion. The defensive aspects he's not looked comfortable with. There's been moments in games where he struggled to track a runner and lost his man. We saw that at City for Phil Foden's goal, the opening goal. Yeah. We saw that at Craven Cottage for Emile Smith-Rowe's equaliser. So there's clear examples there of Fernandes struggling. Having said that, it's hard to give him a 5, isn't it? Because he does more often than not just make something happen out of nowhere, and he was very good against Sunderland. So
Yeah.
after Sunderland, maybe a 5's harsh, probably a 6 is maybe fair. I've kind of persuaded myself
You're talking yourself down.
into giving him a 6 there.
I mean, I thought against Chelsea he was excellent as well. We were talking
Yeah.
about him not liking to do the dirty work in that midfield role. And let's be honest, the defensive side of the game is not something that comes naturally to Bruno Fernandes. But I remember he was flying into tackles, he was chasing the ball down. And then there was that image, wasn't there? I think he went off for about 87 minutes and he was on the touchline in the dugout, barking instructions to the players, telling them what to do, almost doing Amorim's job for him. So I don't think, you can't fault Bruno's desire, commitment, hunger, passion. Sometimes that's not channeled in the right way. Sometimes it gets accused of being too emotional, too sort of petulant, if you like, at times. He's not played his best football this season. He's not looked comfortable, as you say, Steve, in that midfield role. I thought it was interesting this week on international duty with Portugal when he was asked about it. He said, I love playing football. I'll play anywhere the manager wants me to play. I'll play fullback, goalkeeper, winger, striker, anywhere, midfield. And then I thought the telling comment was after that where he says, but we have to adapt to the manager's needs or the manager's demands. And that to me, I could be doing Bruno Fernandes a disservice here, but that to me smacked of him saying, almost reading between the lines, I don't like playing there, but I have to do what the manager wants. Now, I know that Fernandes and his camp weren't happy with a couple of stories at the start of the season, not the start, sorry, maybe 2 or 3 games in, that he wasn't happy about playing midfield. But you get that sense just by looking at him, looking at the way he's playing, his demeanour on the pitch. You mentioned the goals against City, Fulham.
He's missed 2 penalties.
Missed 2 penalties out of 2 of his last 3.
Uncharacteristic, actually, because as we've said, he had a very good penalty record, but he's changed his technique. This might have gone under the radar a bit, but it used to be a hop, skip and a jump, kind of a pause, and he'd wait and see where the goalkeeper dived to. But he's changed his technique now. It's different. It's not worked. It's obviously he was fired over the bar at Fulham, and then a really poor penalty against Brentford, but it was down kind of tamely to the right in the middle of the goal. Yeah,
Keller didn't have to make a really good save to keep it out. Well, you wonder whether that's born out of a knock-on effect from the frustration of playing where he is, of not being able to express himself in the way he wants on the pitch. All these things can affect your mindset. So yeah, it's not been vintage Bruno Fernandes. We're only 7 Premier League games in. There's still time for him to get back to his best, but I don't think we're going to see his best in that position. And I know we bang on about the system and Amorim, we joke with Amorim about it. Oh, another question about the system. But the system is dictating that Bruno Fernandes plays in a role that is ill-suited to him. That's the bottom line. And you're not getting the best out of him. And the problem is you've got the 2 number 10s, whether that's, I think Mbeumo's a certain starter, whether that's Mbeumo and Mount or Mbeumo and Cunha. There's no room for Bruno Fernandes to slot into one of those more attacking positions. So I think we're going to see a lot more frustration from Bruno Fernandes in the coming weeks in the build-up to Christmas.
I'll end it by going with a 6, just because I've remembered his performance against Burnley, and again, that was very good.
Yeah.
He was everywhere and he worked his socks off. But
and he had to wait for ages for that penalty, didn't he?
Again,
in the 97th minute.
He did well to convert that under a lot of pressure. So
yeah.
Again, probably a mixed bag, it's fair to say.
Yeah.
Mason Mount, recency bias is probably going to come into this. Amorim started the season playing Mount down the middle, and although Mount and Mbeumo and Cunha weren't scoring, they looked incredibly fluid and impressive. They were combining really well. Obviously, Sesko is now coming to the team. Mount had a little injury, but his Sunderland performance was fantastic.
Yeah.
We discussed how he took that goal. Probably his best performance yet. You've given him a 7. I probably agree with that. But again, the Sunderland performance is at the forefront of our minds here, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think a 7's about right. I think on his day when he's fit, I think he's a first choice for Manchester United. He was at Chelsea. He won the European Cup, Champions League, in new money there, and provided the assist for Kai Havertz for that winning goal. He was in England. It wasn't an England starter, but he was in the World Cup squad in Qatar. Came on against France. He's just been a hostage to injury for the last 2 seasons. He's had a terrible time with injuries. We talked about Luke Shaw, but Mount's had equally as bad luck in terms of injuries. He talked very openly and honestly in America in pre-season. We had half an hour with him in Chicago, and he talked honestly and openly about how the effect that the injuries had taken on him, the toll it had taken on him mentally. He came from Chelsea with quite a hefty price tag for a player who had 1 year left on his contract, 55 million, I think it was. And he's just been riddled with bad luck in terms of injuries. But as he showed towards the end of last season with a couple of goals when he got back fit, and as he's shown now against Sunderland, when he's fit, when he's fully fit and got all his energy levels up and he's match fit, he's a real addition to this team. And I think he brings so much more than just goal scoring, and his interplay is superb. He presses well. He's got so much energy around the pitch. He sort of drags other players up to his level, if you like. He demands players get involved and close opponents down. So I think there's so many benefits from Mason Mount. The big question is, can he stay fit? I think he'll start against Liverpool because you'll need that kind of high press energy at Anfield that he brings. So I think he'll start at Anfield, but it's fingers crossed for him that he stays fit, because he's a great footballer and he's a great guy.
He described himself as the catalyst of the press when we spoke to him in the mix zone after Sunderland, and you can definitely see that when he puts himself about in the front line. It's my favourite time of the podcast. Then, do you know what time it is?
Break time.
No, Cobby Maynard time.
Oh, Cobby Maynard time. I thought we were going to go to a little break then.
It's too early for a pint. It's only 10 a.m. Yet to start a Premier League game.
Oh, Cobby.
Yeah. For anyone that doesn't get that joke, we've been talking about Cobby Maynard at length, and we've been aware of that, and we've said we don't want to make it a big thing. But naturally, it is a huge talking point because he hasn't started a Premier League match.
Yeah.
He was an unused substitute in the first 2 games. Then he's made further appearances from the bench since then in 5 matches. He obviously gave the ball away for Brentford's 3rd goal, but having said that, I made the point. I actually thought he was good when he came on.
It was the same at City.
If you ignore that. Yeah, and there's been games when it has been difficult for him to come on and make an impact when United might be trailing, City, for example, Brentford. But there's been green shoots, there's been bright sparks, and it's incredibly difficult, as you've said yourself, to come on and give the best account of yourself when you're not starting and you're not in a rhythm. He's doing all he can, he's working hard, he's just not getting into that starting team, unfortunately. Again, it's incredibly hard to give him an accurate mark because we've just not seen him play that much. So a 6 or a 5 would probably be fair.
I think you're right. Well, I'd give him 6.
You give him a 5. But
5, yeah.
Again,
he's just not played.
It's probably a 6 just by default, isn't it?
Yeah, he's just not played. I mean, maybe I give him a 5 because, as you say, Steve, he gave the ball away for the Brentford goal with that heavy first touch. Listen, this is an ongoing problem. It's not going to go away. He wanted to go away out on loan before the transfer window shut, the summer transfer window. United said no. You can understand why he wanted to go, because he's not getting any game time. You've got a World Cup coming up next summer in the States. I wrote a piece this week because obviously Cobby has been posting on his Instagram account. He's been training out in Spain, warm weather training during the international break, because obviously he's not been picked by England, and you can't blame Thomas Tuchel for that because you can't select players who aren't playing regularly for their clubs. But it seems incredible that 18 months ago he was a starter for England in that European Championship final defeat to Spain. And a few weeks prior to that, he started and scored in United's FA Cup final win over Manchester City.
If you spoke to fans who left
now,
Wembley that day, down Wembley Way, and you said 18 months later, Cobby Maynard could be out of the United team,
it's now
potentially looking at an exit. The fans floating down the turnstiles at Wembley after that FA Cup final wouldn't have believed you.
No, I mean, he's an outcast for club and country now, which would have been unthinkable 18 months ago, when his stock was at its highest. But whatever Ruben Amorim likes to say, he says, I love Cobby, and he's not the finished article yet, but I love him as a player. He needs to get better at, his decision making, when to press, when to go forward, when to drop deep, all these kind of things. He just doesn't trust him. Doesn't trust him enough to play him, to start him in a league game. And that's been hard for Cobby to take, because obviously he feels he should be starting. And even when Casemiro was suspended, wasn't he? He didn't get a look in at Brentford. Ugarte came in. And we talked about that on the last podcast. You can kind of understand that because Ugarte is ostensibly a more defensive-minded midfielder, rather than if you had Cobby and Bruno there, it would probably be a little bit too open. But I still felt he deserved a look in there. So this problem, as I say, is not going to go away. He's not going to play much between now and the turn of the year. So you can guarantee he'll be looking to go out on loan again in January. Whether the situation will be different then, whether United can buy a midfielder in January and then they can let Cobby go, I don't know. But at the moment, you would say not. So an incredibly frustrating, first half of the season for him. Well, not even the halfway stage of the season. First few weeks of the season for him, and I don't see it getting any better, unfortunately.
Moving on to the forwards, Chido Obi.
I didn't give him a mark, did I? He hasn't featured.
I just wanted to see your face, if I'm honest. He's not been in the squad.
You've watched him. He's played for the youth
he's
team,
obviously
hasn't he?
played for the under-21s exclusively, 17 years old.
What mark would you give him?
For the youth team, I mean, he scores plenty of goals, probably an 8, but I just wanted to throw a cat amongst the pigeons.
You did. I was thinking, hang on a second.
Matthias Cunha, you've given him a 6.
Yeah, I've not been, I may be in the minority here. I've not been blown away by Cunha since he joined United. And as I say, people are entitled to disagree with that and probably will disagree with that. He played the great pass into Mbeumo for the penalty at Brentford. But that aside, I don't know. I mean, he was injured, wasn't he? He missed the City game, he was injured. I can't think of a great deal that sort of springs to mind of what he's done. Maybe you can refresh my memory.
I think I'd give him a 7, but that might be generous considering other marks I've given.
I think when you compare him to Mbeumo,
I think they're both in similar situations in my mind. But although Mbeumo's obviously contributed more in terms of goals and assists, he scored twice. Cuna's yet to get off the mark, which by the October international break you would have liked him to have scored. There has been chances. Fulham away when he drew that save from Leno, that was a fantastic save. Hit the post as well. So there's two big chances there. I think his all-round performances have been very good. I think he's made a really positive contribution in that sense. Again, frustrating that he's not contributed a goal or assist, but I think his overall impact has been really good for me.
I just think for an attacking player who's come for 65 million to not have, as you say, a goal or an assist by the second international break of the season, 7 Premier League games in, isn't great. You'd expect more for that.
I'd argue he's been unlucky, but I mean, luck doesn't.
But you make your own luck, don't you? As well, you make your own luck.
You can't move up the table with that.
And as I say, going back to what we were just talking about, I think Mount will start ahead of him, and I think that says everything. The Mount's been injured. Is not okay. But they're both injured for the City game. But I think Mount has leapt ahead of him in the pecking order, if you like, the selection order. So I think Mount will start ahead of Cunha at Anfield on Sunday. And I think deservedly so.
Yeah, I think it's relevant for the game as well. I think if you're pressing hard and you want to provide that kind of press from the front and cover in midfield, Mason Mount's probably going to give you more than that.
And also, Cunha can be a bit of a hothead as well. And I don't think in an atmosphere like as frenzied as it's going to be, I'm not saying he can't play in those atmospheres, but I just think you are risking something there because he's got that in his demeanour, hasn't he?
I've got no doubt he'll score sooner rather than later. The quality's there, you can see it. Yeah, it definitely can. And Mbeumo, then you've given him an 8. I'd probably agree with that, a 7 or an 8. His impact probably is greater than his goals. Obviously scored his first goal against Burnley. Against Grimsby, then scored against Burnley. Missed the decisive penalty against Grimsby, but then he bounced back to score against Burnley in the Premier League just before the last international break. But again, his all-round performances, his kind of link-up play, the way he gets into the box, the way he combines with his teammates. Yeah. I think some players, when they join United, you think, right, we're going to see a drop-off here. It's a big move. It's a lot of pressure. Not every player is cut out to play and represent the club. But in Mbeumo, there's been no sign of that. I think he's just such a brilliant football player. I never had any doubt, really, that he would hit the ground running. And I think that's exactly what he's done.
Yeah, I think he, like Ligt, has he started every Premier League game? I think he has. It was interesting because in America on the tour, he was behind the rest of the squad in terms of his pre-season fitness. So he didn't start until the final game against Everton. I forgot where it was now.
Chicago, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't Chicago. It was Atlanta.
You were there.
I was there. It was a long tour, Steve. Tour of duty.
You must have Atlanta. American beers are pretty weak, so you must have had a few to not
I don't know.
That.
Well, the Miller Lights are, but I don't go for those. You've got to go on the IPAs, haven't you? Got to go on the IPAs or the pale ales. You can't. There's a few in our pack that like to stay on the Miller Lights.
Not a fan of the Bud Lights.
No, Bud Lights. Yeah, Miller Lights. Terrible. You might as well drink water. Anyway, we digress. What are we talking about? Mbeumo. Mbeumo. I think you're right. He's got 2 goals, 1 assist, I think. But of course, he won. I keep saying won the penalty. You got the sending off of Robert Sanchez against Chelsea. It was his running behind, Sesko's flick on, his anticipation of the flick on that drew the foul from Sanchez. Of course, he won the penalty at Brentford that Bruno Fernandes missed. So I think you're right. He's contributed a lot more than his goals and his assists would suggest. And I think his energy levels, his runs in behind, particularly those diagonal runs in behind, which is what he did to such great effect at Brentford. I think they've given United a different dimension in attack, and he just brings a dynamism to to the United attack. And that's why I would say, Cunha has to kind of try and aspire to that level, to get to that level. Maybe it's a bit harsh. Some players do take longer to settle than others. Not every player, as you say, is going to hit the ground running and be an instant success. And maybe Cunha is a slow burner that, once, maybe look at...
See, I think
it's been the same story for a lot of players in the past.
Everyone has different opinions, but I think the only difference between Cunha and Mbeumo for me has probably been Mbeumo's got the little rub of the green in the final third a little bit more.
Possibly.
I think there's very little in it actually between their performances. They've both been very good for me.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, listen, if Cunha had scored a couple of goals and maybe got an assist, I might have a different view. Maybe that, once he gets that first goal, maybe the floodgates will open. And I think that they probably will, because he showed such great quality at Wolves. And his goal scoring record was impressive, as was his number of assists he got. So I think it's only a matter of time. But at this stage, I think personally a 6 is about right. 6.5.
We're in the home straight with Benjamin Sesko now. Had a slow start. Scored his first goal against Brentford, was tenacious in the box to kind of score after a few rebounds. Then he scored against Sunderland, which was very well taken, that kind of flick at the Stretford end. There's been real glimmers and signs of Sesko's potential in the last few weeks. He's found his feet clearly. I think a 7 would be very fair.
That's what I gave him, yeah. I think 7, because I think Ruben said after the City game, he made the admission in the press conference that he was... he didn't say isolated, but he said he was on his own, I think were the words that Ruben used. So I think that there's been a collective push to try and get players to link up with him more, to give him the service. And I think we've seen that in the last couple of games. I think he's got a great work ethic. I think off the ball, the way he holds the ball up. And we saw it against Sunderland, that tactic of playing the long balls and playing to his strengths. If you've got a 6'4" striker, why are you not going to play long balls that you can flick on and then you can win the second ball? So I think we'll see a lot more of that. We said that with Lomans, with his excellent, so far delivery. Sesko will be a target man, and the goals will only give him confidence going forward. So I think 7's about right for him. People balked at the 74 million, was it the price? Particularly after his first few games. Of course, he got hauled off at half time against Chelsea for a tactical switch because of Casemiro's red card, which was unfortunate because I thought he played well in that first half, really well. But I like him. I like the way he plays the game. I like his character. And I think 7's about right for him.
Ahmad, he's probably not been at his best, but a 6 again, probably fair.
Yeah, I mean, he missed the Brentford game, didn't he, with a family bereavement. Even before that tragic situation, he just didn't look like the confident Ahmad that we've seen in last season and the season before. Overthinking, I think, in certain situations, almost not doing what comes to him intrinsically, naturally, that attacking sort of player's instinct. And sort of running the ball out of play a couple of times and picking out the wrong pass. It's
difficult, isn't it? Because he's playing a right wing back, and I think he's naturally, clearly not a right wing back. He's obviously would prefer to be in one of the number 10 roles. And I think there's been teething problems with Mbeumo on that side. Sometimes they get in each other's way. They've just got to develop a relationship and understand who's going to make that run, who's going to make the overlap or cut inside and invert. There's clearly signs that relationship will develop and needs to develop.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's played as number 10 once or twice. I can't remember the game. Maybe once. But I think Grimsby was it? Yeah, I think Amorim's got him down for that right wing back role. It'll be interesting to see whether he starts there at Anfield against Liverpool, because it's a difficult one. Because do you go with him because obviously offensively he offers a lot more than Dalot down the right flank, and do his attacking qualities outweigh the defensive qualities of Dalot? It's a really tricky one. I'm not so sure. I wonder whether Amorim will go with Dalot there, just because you're away at Liverpool. You don't want to leave yourselves too open. And Ahmad, by his nature as a winger, isn't naturally defensive minded. So I think he may start on the bench against Liverpool. But I think he's another one that just hopefully he'll get into the rhythm of playing and the goals will come. But I just think he's been overthinking in certain situations and not doing things naturally, and almost putting too much pressure on himself to pick out the right pass and then choosing the wrong option. So I think maybe in the international break, I mean, I think he's away with Ivory Coast, is he now? Maybe once he's back, Amorim will have a chat with him and the coaching staff and just tell him to express himself naturally. Don't overthink things, in the final third. I think that's the advice I think he needs right now.
Lastly, Joshua Zirkzee has only played 82 minutes so far this season in all competitions, has not started once. Very disappointing for him on that front. You'd have to give him, again, very hard to rate a player 6 by default or 5. It has to be one of those.
I mean, there were stories last week, and quite understandably, that he wants to leave
in a World Cup season.
In a World Cup season, what age is he? 23, 24, 23?
He's 23 when he signed.
23, yeah. So he has to be playing regularly. He's another one that falls into the Kobbie Mainoo category. He has to be playing regularly. Unfortunately, Amorim cannot give him the time at the moment. He cannot give him the games because there aren't the games to give him the minutes that he wants. So I would imagine that, unlike Mainoo, I wouldn't suspect United will stand in his way if he wants to go out on loan in January, or if they can get a permanent deal. It would be more likely a loan, you would think. I would have thought he would probably be on his way in January. I mean, it's not a huge squad. We talked about that at length. So there may be a situation where United think, well, listen, we can't afford to let him go because if Sesko gets injured, who have we got? I
think from United's perspective, why would they let?
We've let Højlund go. Yeah. We've let Rashford go. Why would we let Xerxes go? So it's a tricky one. I think if they're not going to sign a striker or a full attacking player in January, if they sign anybody, it'll be a midfielder. So I'll argue against my original point now. Maybe you'll have to sit it out, Xerxes, for the rest of the season. And it's a tricky one because he's had a hard time, and other players had a hard time. He got booed. I think it was against Newcastle, wasn't it?
Substituted in there after 33 minutes.
Yeah, and the fans booed him, which was unacceptable. And he's shown great character to come back from that. And that could have finished off a lot of players. But again, you can't see when he's going to play. Difficult for him.
That's the player ratings done. We're now going to spend half an hour talking about Kobbie Mainoo.
Please, no.
No, that's it for the podcast, David. Thanks for your time.
Cheers, Steve.
Thanks to listeners as usual. Hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll be back later in the week on Friday to look ahead to the Liverpool game at Anfield. Enjoy your week. Take care.